Good evening, I'm Melisa Idris.
And I'm Sharaad Kuttan.
You're watching Consider This. Tonight on the show, we have Derek Yeo, who is the Vice Chairman of the Malaysian Franchise Association. He's also the champion for the Retail and F&B Productivity Nexus for the Malaysia Productivity Corporation. Derek, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
All right, so tonight we're going to be discussing the idea of how to transform our F&B and our retail subsectors, which is really important for Malaysia to remain as an attractive tourist destination, especially given Visit Malaysia 2020 is coming up. Now, let's talk about the current landscape, Derek. I mean, how would you benchmark our current retail and F&B subsector right now? What needs to improve? How would you diagnose the problem?
Okay, I think currently in terms of retail and F&B, I think both retail and F&B shared the same pain points or even challenges that we've been talking about many years around. So I think the main issues that we are talking about is the challenge of labor. We're having the shortage of labor in terms of having them to work in the F&B and even retail industries. The industry has been seen by this group of people saying that this is not a very industry that is no career path for them. They are earning lesser. They have longer working hours, kind of things, right? These are the challenges that we are facing all this while. So most probably because this sector is the one that is dealing directly with the consumers out there, the customers, yes. The front line, what we call as front line. So like it or not, they will have to face some kind of stress level in terms of facing different types of behaviors of customers. So these are the major challenges that we are facing at the moment.
What about, so labor is a big issue, and we all know this, and there's a lot of discussion about migrant labor, especially in the involvement in F&B. But what about the other side of it, which has to do with the industry itself? How much is the industry keeping up with challenges that are happening globally, involvement in sort of innovation? How much of that is happening? Do we see real creative thinking happening in our F&B sector that might be emulated by others?
Right. So I think one of the moving forward plan that a lot of our small and medium retailers or F&B are doing is trying to go into the digital platform or the e-commerce platform. So I think everyone is on delivery service now, which is one of the very small part of digitalizations of what we call, right? So that is just a small part. But then a lot of times when we talk about labor issues, a lot of companies are trying to go into digital kind of ordering, mobile ordering. They use mobile apps to do ordering, which they thought that this will actually cut down a little bit of labor usage. So these are the things that we, in the industry in Malaysia, we are trying to use, but there is no uniformity at the moment. So everyone is trying their own ways of getting into the so-called e-platform.
Do you need uniformity, for instance? I mean, what benefits would uniformity bring?
Right. If you look at the contribution of the retail F&B sectors, in fact, the mom and pops kind of shops has the most in the countries that which we don't know. We only know that big chain like McDonald's, right. Manhattan Fish Market, Tony Roma's, right? But there are small cafes that's mushrooming everywhere. So if the big chain can go into digitalization, what about the small one? They can't afford all this platform. So that is why the government or the nexus of productivity in F&B and retail is a platform that we want to achieve this kind of initiative to benefit everyone, including the small one.
Yeah. Okay, so the small one's very interesting because I think and I live in which Time Out KL actually called a foodie neighborhood. Okay. Lots of tiny little restaurants in my neighborhood, right? And I think what is special about the dining experience for a lot of Malaysians is precisely that, the uniqueness or the story behind a particular outlet and such. But the question is, even within the terms of those small unique things, are they adopting the best practices so that if they could hire maybe not 20 people, but they could hire 10 people because they have a system. Is there any way to educate and it seems like a lot of people who want to be restaurateurs, but they don't necessarily have the skills.
Right.
I mean, you know, they just have a wonderful idea or a passion.
Yes, you got the point there where actually there's a lot of small restaurants mushrooming everywhere, but then whether they can sustain the business or not, that's another question. So normally we can see that they can be there for about 1-2 years, but at the end of the day you can see that that particular lot has changed to another brand. So this is the talk about the sustainability of the business. So what you mentioned is correct, because when we talk about moving into digitalizations, not everyone can do that for now, because when there is a gap, if everything is being digitalized, we still need a human touch in certain point, certain particular transaction or certain times where we need to have some explanation with some human. So how do we guide? The question is, how do we train or upskill the current labor force to help into digitalizations? We are looking at two different parts. We want digitalization, yes, we are doing that, but what about upskilling these people there who is in the labor force now to be able to use the digital platform?
Right, is that also in line with addressing the concern? You know, you mentioned a bit earlier that this subsector, this industry of retail and F&B is often seen as not much career progression. So does that tie back into the upskilling, right? Because
exactly.
then that provides perhaps a trajectory, yes.
Yes, that will provide a better career path for this group of people, where I think most of them are millennials. Moving to next year, 2020, I think there's about 45 to 50% of the workforce is millennials. So they are the one who like to be seen that I am part of the business. I want to be seen, I want to be engaged, kind of decision making. So when we try to upskill them or uplift them in terms of getting the knowledge of digital or IT per se, then they can actually stay in the business for longer, and then we can actually produce more entrepreneurs in terms of restaurants or F&B businesses. So the initiatives in terms of Nexus is to provide this kind of platform to help this industry to have more people, more labor force, labor mobility in terms of IT literate kind of people,
Right.
to move the industry forward.
Would you say it's very expensive? You talked a little bit about, you know, some of the mom and pop shops possibly can't afford to digitize. Is it an expensive endeavor to, you know, to get on perhaps these kind of tech platforms?
It is very expensive because if you are doing it on your own, you have your own specific needs in terms of questions that you want to ask the customers, because you have different products. Tony Roma's kind of steakhouse is different from McDonald's, is different from hawker center. So they have different types of customer groupings, and the expectation is different. So, but the platform is the same. But how do we segregate this kind of questionnaires into different category of people? So if you are doing it on your own, you will have to tailor-make the custom, personalize it. So if you have a uniform standard platform, everyone can use, but you can actually use it, you can have a section that you can actually drill down to your specific needs that is more affordable to everyone.
All right, we're going to continue this conversation right here on Consider This. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Welcome back to Consider This. Melisa and Sharaad here on the show tonight. We're talking about how to increase the productivity of the retail and F&B industries. And joining us on the show is Derek Yeo, the champion for the Retail and F&B Productivity Nexus for the Malaysian Productivity Corporation. Derek, you mentioned a little bit earlier that, you know, the frontline services often have to deal with a lot of stress because they're dealing with customers. And I'm just wondering how that's evolved over the years. Are customer expectations higher now for retail and F&B services?
Definitely has become higher because with the previously when we talk about customer complaints or customer feedback, we put it a positive way, customer feedbacks. You can actually go to the shop and tell them that I have this feedback, or you can just email them, or you can give them a call. But today, in today's world, you can do this kind of feedback, so-called feedbacks, in a lot of other platforms. You can tweet, you can put it on Facebook, you can put it on Instagram, then it goes viral.
And it shames the owners and the
and sometimes they don't even tell the business directly.
Right.
So these are the challenge that the stress level that everyone is having. So there must be a platform that that you have to uniformity kind of platform that businesses can actually track. Perhaps today, Melisa, you are talking to the business owners about your feedback in Facebook, but the next moment you prefer to call them. But they actually treat you as two different cases because there's no linkage to this kind of complaint. So moving forward, this kind of digitalization will actually helps to ease this kind of multi-channels kind of.
So are you thinking, for instance, like every business has a Facebook page, and then you complain on that Facebook page? Because it's so easy right now to have a bad customer experience. You know, you have a meal and the waiter was rude, and you're tweeting out to the whole world, right? So. Is it logical to expect one channel of, you know, or to go to a specific business channel when it comes to feedback?
What I meant is actually there is actually different types of platform that the businesses can use. One of it is actually to build their own an applications for the business, where you can actually link all your social media into that application. For example, in our group in Manhattan Fish Market, for example, we have apps called Byte and Bytes. So this actually gives us the platform to actually link our social media, all the feedback into one, and then these people actually become our members. So this kind of platform is good, beneficial for the small and medium kind of chain, and also the single unique kind of shops. So the Productivity Nexus actually, this retail Productivity Nexus actually hopes to initiate efforts like these that has been there in the industry, but it's been used only for a certain group or certain company to be able to use for other people, other businesses as well. So this is our actually plan moving forward to help other initiative, the initiative for other businesses as well.
Yeah, I guess one of the things that we need to kind of clarify in our minds is the difference between, say, improving customer experience or the quality of, you know, the services and products out there in the F&B and retail segment of the economy, and the question of productivity. What does productivity actually mean when we talk about F&B and we talk about retail?
When you talk about retail, for example, if you talk about online and offline, today, if you talk about you are going to buy something from Uniqlo or Zara, for example, you can actually browse it on the internet first, right, from their website. But when you plan to buy it or to own it, you don't want it to be delivered to you, you want to try it first, you have to go to the shop. So it's actually a seamless experience that customer is expecting. So if you already found it online, you expect that to be able to find it in the store as well. So you want to have the same kind of information provided in the store as well as what you have seen in the online. So if you go there and you still want to find out the same thing and they can't give you the things that you have found in the online platform, this is not seamless experience.
Right.
So it's actually a journey of customer experience that the customers are demanding these days. Yeah.
Well, you know, what I do understand is that, and this is a challenge perhaps in much more mature markets, is that the retail bricks and mortar you know, outlets are under severe pressure precisely because people have moved online to shop. And in fact, they don't even have to try it on necessarily. I mean, they have all kinds of applications to make sure that the fit is there and you can return things. But it also has an impact on the workers within the brick and mortar sector segment, because what happens is that they don't get their commissions anymore, and this is in a commission-driven, you know, kind of F&B and retail setup. So, what is the situation here? You know, when you improve your online, you might actually hurt your brick and mortar, and what about the workers there and their conditions and so on and so forth?
Okay, I think online and offline, if you talk about F&B per se, in terms of delivery is a new thing in the market, right? So actually the contribution of delivery sales is actually about 8 to 10% for any restaurants for now. For if it's at a F&B fast food category, probably you can go up to 20% of their sales per month, right? So in terms of sales contributions, but I think we cannot like just put all the effort into online, but then the dine-in sector, we just leave it like that. But we have to work out a method where the calculation of the KPI is actually, the return on investment should be calculated such a way that the dine-in is still contributing higher percentage, because the online platform is actually, the sales is higher, but in terms of cost per sales is also higher, because you are actually depending on a third party to help you deliver.
Right.
The delivery cost is higher. So in terms of dine-in, you are saving on that, but you have rental. But actually that's why it's actually, you can't say which one is better. So it's actually a need for both in this kind of, in today's society.
But there's also a lot to do with branding, right? Because consumers who order food online or delivery services know of the brick and mortar restaurants. They've been there before and they've tried the menu, and that's where it comes from, rather than, I guess, discovery, just using an online app, for instance. I want to come back and talk to you a little bit about that retail side of things. When you said, you know, there's an online shopping experience and then there's the brick and mortar shopping experience, you go there to try things on and it's not seamless. Currently, Malaysia, we're not seamless yet, right?
We are not.
Okay, so what does it take for it to become seamless? You know, of course, this is all part of the digitization, but there's also a lot of the technology talking to each other, and I've noticed that as a person who shops online quite a lot, I go
maybe too much.
Maybe too much. You're right. I do have a weakness, but when I go into the brick and mortar shops, it's almost always I can't find sizes, or I don't see the things that I see online. How do shops or how do retail services deal with that?
Right, I think under the productivity nexus for retail and F&B, one of the initiatives that we have launched is actually with Sangheng, the Sangheng Group, the electrical Sangheng Group. They have actually launched a Sandwave platform. It's actually an e-commerce platform that actually encompasses all these. It's actually meant for retail, not for F&B yet. But this platform is actually meant for a shopper like us who actually wanted to have maybe a TV, to buy a TV. We can actually look for what kind of specs, where can I find it, this kind of thing, and when can it be delivered to me. These are the platform that is already in the market, but it's just a starting point for Malaysia. Okay. So for Malaysia, if you talk about fashion again, if it's in US or UK, you can actually, like what you say, there's a mirror, right? You can actually stand in front of a mirror, you can actually see and then touch the screen that what kind of different costume you can put it on you.
Like AI technology,
correct, AI.
For you know,
we are not there
up.
yet. We are not there yet, but I think we will be there soon. So, so having said that, the human touch is still needed here. No matter how you digitalize that, we still need to have human services. But how do we uplift the services there? This is our concern, and this is what we want to do for moving forward next 2 years. Okay,
let's come back and touch on what's going to be next for the F&B and retail sector, especially in improving productivity. That's coming up on Consider This. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Consider This. Melisa and Sharaad here with you tonight. We're speaking to Derek Yeo, who is the champion for the Retail and F&B Nexus for the Malaysian Productivity Corporation. Derek, what countries, when you talk about you know, good customer experience, good service, good productivity, what countries should we be benchmarking against when it comes to delivering high service, good quality high service?
Right. Well, I think previously when we talk about good customer service, what comes into our mind probably Japan, Singapore, these kind of very developed countries. But we are able to benchmark to the same level kind of country, developing countries like Malaysia. I think Thailand is one of the countries that we are trying to learn, okay, trying to learn from Thailand. So I think probably the cultural background of Thailand is such that they are so courteous, they are so polite. And that actually helps in terms of customer service in the retail and F&B front. All right, so that is something that we should be learning from in Malaysia. But of course, the labour issue in Malaysia forcing us to use a lot of foreign workers, that actually also changes the landscape of Malaysia service. So
Right.
that's why.
But I must say that, look, when you get, foreign workers, wherever they come from, if you have good training,
Right.
if you know what you want to achieve,
Exactly.
it doesn't matter where they come from. Timbuktu,
Right.
Dhaka, Tasmania, it doesn't matter.
Right.
You have system. The question is, and this is what fascinates me, this is a government kind of, the level at which these initiatives are coming from, right, from on high, to what is largely a very fragmented industry, right, lots of small players. Do they see the problem, and do they appreciate the concerns that you have as somebody who's a champion, or government has when they have the macro picture of this as a driver for the national economy? Do the small players actually even see that?
Definitely, they saw that, and then I think probably the reason we are on this kind of platform to actually explain what is the productivity nexus platform is all about is to help this group of people, and we are reaching out to a lot more of these small cafes, small restaurants, small grocery shops that, hey, you can come to us, we can help you.
Right.
These kind of activities that we have. So because there are just too many out there that we don't even know they exist. So we want to help them because we are talking about big groups like hypermarket, like we know Giant, things like that, right? But there are so many smaller ones out there. So I believe they are also facing the same issues, but they are using their own level of willingness to work. They are using their family members to run the shop, to run the restaurant, right? But I think when they want to grow, they have to come into this kind of platform. This is why one of the initiative of Nexus Productivity for F&B is actually to help them to grow the business before even grow international. The fourth level of initiative is to grow the business international overseas.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, next year is going to be a big year for, F&B and
Right.
retail services. Visit Malaysia 2020. All eyes are going to be on how we provide good customer service, right? The customer experience. And a bad experience can mean no more recurring tourists. What are you doing, especially as champion of this Nexus, to prepare for next year?
You are very right, because when we talk to Tourism Nexus, actually they are trying to bring in tourists into Malaysia for next year or any other years, but then what the tourists do when they come here, they landed in
That's
Malaysia.
your Nexus, right?
Yeah, they actually shops around,
Yes.
they go and dine into a lot of restaurants. That's actually come into this Nexus. So the big plan next year is actually to look into the service level, customer excellence service level that we want to embark into, and it's an ongoing process that we want to certify, verify, acknowledge good service, retail and F&B, to give them a service excellent mark that they can actually display in the restaurant or the retail front, that to say that this is something that the government has acknowledged, the industry has acknowledged, that it can be a trusted brand, trusted restaurant that you can shop in and dine in. It's just like TripAdvisor. TripAdvisor is something that you actually look for before you travel, right?
Yes.
So it's something that we want to do in-house. Why are we doing? You're just using TripAdvisor.
Do we have anything currently?
No,
like that?
we are trying to do it now.
Do it now, okay.
Yeah.
I do want to ask you, but so again, we come back to service. We know service is largely about people,
Right.
So how do you incentivize somebody? You can hire people, but if you don't give them
Right.
the incentive, don't pay them well,
Yes.
we don't have a tipping culture. So what are the incentives to actually be?
Do you want a tipping culture, Malaysia?
Well, I think it might be useful because we do have what they call a service
Service
tag.
tax,
We don't
yes.
even know whether it goes to the
Right,
workers.
right.
And this is a huge problem. If it doesn't go to the workers, again, you're disincentivizing good behavior, that extra that people remember. They remember a good waiter or waitress or the chef that comes out from the kitchen and talks to you. How do we get that going?
Right, you're very right. Because in Malaysia, we don't have the tipping standards. I mean, tipping, that is up to you whether you want to tip the waiter or waitress.
Never happens. Malaysia, where does it happen? Nobody tips.
It do happen in some of restaurants, but then of course when we have the customer service tax, the customer actually pays a tax for the business, right? And then most of the time the businesses actually put back the service tax collection into different types of commission, incentive, even the staff dinner, to actually incentivize and motivate the staff. So these are different ways of incentivizing the staff to make them motivated. There's even usage of the pool of money to become like a challenge in terms of restaurant challenge. Like if you sell more this, you will get this kind of incentive. This is to make them have fun in the workplace, because like I said, 45% of the workforce moving forward is millennials. They don't want to work like what we worked before, right? Let's go to work and come back. They want to have fun. All right.
Right.
So
Mind
these
you,
are
you
the
look like a millennial. We'll leave it at that.
All right, well, on that note, gentlemen, we've run out of time for the show. Thank you so much, Derek, for speaking with us
Thank
tonight.
you.
It's been such a pleasure. I'm Melissa Idris, with me, Sharaad Kutan. We'll join you for another episode of Consider This, same time tomorrow. Signing off for tonight. Thank you for watching.